ABC Radio Brisbane.
Mornings with Steve Austin. On 6:12 a.m. and on the ABC Listen app.
Tanya Gramboa is a teacher and a tutor. She created Literacy for Boys and Literacy for Kids programs. I should mention she's also a member of the World Literacy Task Force. Tanya, good to see you. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Just explain what the World Literacy Task Force is, please.
So the task force is part of the World Literacy Foundation, and their main goal is just to address this literacy problem worldwide. We used to think that literacy deficits were in poorer nations and third world countries, but that has rapidly changed. So we're working with schools all across the UK and the US, so it's actually a worldwide problem.
What do the numbers tell us about boys' literacy in Australia after the latest NAPLAN results? We've heard what the, sort of the commentators say, and the ministers sort of always have a justification for declining standards. But what do you see in those numbers?
So, Steve, I report on this every single year, and the numbers haven't changed for the past 5 years. So I am so frustrated by this that last week I wrote to every education state minister, and I want to reach out to them to see how we can offer a solution and work with them. It's alarming that 1 in every 2 boys in Year 9, 1 in 2, struggle to convey meaning in their writing. So we should all be very worried about that, because our Year 9 boys are getting ready to finish either Year 12 or into the workforce. So we actually have a generation of young boys who are going to be penalised.
I don't want to be unfair to our schooling system here in Queensland, but are we pumping out illiterate boys out of our schools here in Queensland?
We are, yes. And we can. The problem is we need to really work to engage boys with literacy. So I know that there is a solution that it can work. So if you give boys content and topics that they're interested in, and we all need to value literacy and value reading. So that is a core message. If parents value reading, that communicates the value of it and engaging our boys with texts.
I want to talk around that thing about parents, if I may, just for a brief moment. I'm sure that a parent listening will say, yep, I know my boy's got a problem. Mm-hmm. What they don't have is a solution, because parents are really busy.
Correct.
At the moment. In fact, usually, even if they're not married, both people in a relationship with children are probably both working just to meet their payments. Can you speak to that at all? Because parents know the boys have got a problem, but what they don't have is a workable solution.
Correct. Look, and it is, I absolutely get that. We're both in a working family as well. So it's even if you can spend 10 or 15 minutes of your day, there's 2 things you can do here. You can actually make sure that your sons and grandsons see you reading. Now, I'm going to have to say that we all are guilty of reading on our phone. That is not as powerful as a boy seeing, particularly a male role model reading a book, whether that be a newspaper or a magazine. That sends a very powerful message to our young boys that reading is valued. So if you can fit in 10, 15 minutes of your day, what I found as a successful technique for older readers is if you can actually read the same book as them or show an interest in the same books that they're reading. As a parent, you will have to work really hard to find a book that your son will like. And I know in my experience, I've presented 5 books, and a boy may reject it, but it might be your 6th book. So you have to keep going. You have to just talk to librarians. You don't need to buy books. That's a very, expensive outlay of money. So, use your librarian. Your school librarians are amazing. They are just a free resource for you to find out what your boy's interest, is, and they can match that.
In the Austin household, we go to op shops a lot.
Yes.
And they usually have ripping books.
Correct.
It's easy to read books for boys and girls, usually ridiculously cheap prices.
Definitely. And if you can get a boy, I must say, if you can get a boy reading a book that's part of a series, as a parent, you can just relax then, because you've set them up to read 5 books. So if you can actually get them over that hurdle of reading and engaging with a book, It's fantastic. It's very rewarding.
So are boys behind in reading in part because they don't see a significant male role model in their life reading in front of them or to them?
I think that's part of the problem, definitely. And I think also, I mean, our teachers are amazing, but boys can slip through the system. So then it's directly related to self-esteem. So if they don't believe that they're good at reading, they're not going to engage with it.
Is that a fact? So I didn't realise that about boys and self-esteem.
Definitely.
So if a boy can read, it's self-esteem related.
Directly related, because when you imagine anything that comes across a boy in a classroom, everything has literacy attached to it.
Tanya Grambower is a teacher and tutor. She's created Literacy for Boys and Literacy for Kids. They've been running for about 6 years. She's also a member of the World Literacy Task Force. She was actually invited onto that task force. We're looking at boys in particular this morning. We in the ABC, we do a lot of stories about girls, what have you. We're looking at boys particularly this morning. So if you have a young boy and he's convinced he doesn't like reading, he's not good at it, the best way for a bloke to turn that around is read to them or something else.
We're getting back to the value of reading to boys as well. That has a lot of benefits. So, and I know we have the debate about audiobooks. I would suggest audiobooks are okay, but I would not introduce audiobooks from a young age because you can't flip that back. Once you've introduced it, it's very hard to get a paper book in their hands. I know every parent here, we all know that boys have a strong connection with technology. So getting boys off gaming devices is also a challenge. So I recognise that as well. But there's so many valuable books out there. There's books that are on, every topic that you can imagine. It's just really locking into what their interests are and seeking out books around that topic, whether it be about a rap artist or it can be about somebody who's an incredible sports person, whether it's somebody who's in that science or Lego world. You can actually find a book about everything.
We're talking literacy in boys or reading in boys. What needs to change in the classroom?
So, Steve, the reason I actually created Literacy for Boys is because as a teacher, I was very frustrated at trying to find content that appealed to kids. So I just remember spending all this money on resources and not finding anything that engaged children. And I'm talking about girls as well here. So once I started creating content that the boys I tutored enjoyed, so I tapped, it was easy as tapping into their interests. Our Literacy for Kids and Literacy for Boys programs, they have topics that kids really love to read about. I'm talking about roller coasters, sports. Did you know, Steve, that there's an actual job that a person is a bubblegum tester? So
why wasn't I told?
I know. So the answer is that if you give kids engaging content, they will read. So poor teachers, they don't have time to find all this sort of content. They are so busy. And so our program has been really successful with that because kids actually will read if you give them topics that appeal to them. Choice is
it's that capturing the imagination, isn't it?
It definitely is.
How do you capture the imagination?
Adventure stories. Kids love all that. They actually really, really do. It's actually putting the information or the topic in front of them and they will engage. And there's wonderful, talented teachers who are so committed to that. But they are time poor and, they have to manage, a class of varied abilities.
Is the curriculum working? The public school curriculum, is it working in this area?
We are getting better. So we're
You're
getting
being
back
very
to
diplomatic.
We are getting back to basics. There's a real push. The teachers on here will know the value of explicit teaching. So we're actually getting back to phonics. And, the case studies of schools that we have worked with have really come back to the value of phonics. You need to find out where a child's reading concerns are and targeting that. So good teachers are really good at that. But, of course, there's a varied ability. And we have high school students now. We have teachers in high school who I'm having to mentor high school teachers on how to teach reading because the students coming to them in Year 8 and Year 9 are reading at a Year 3 ability level.
Crikey, that's bad.
It is bad, and these high school teachers are having to abandon their curriculum. They can't do their novel study because these kids can't read. So Our program has been very helpful for those in that high school. Our growth in the high school domain has been very, very high in the last 12 months.
Is it true that teachers have been buying out of their own pocket your program to help in the school classroom here?
I learnt that last week. And
tell me the story.
So a lovely teacher has inquired about our program for boys. So we actually spoke about the program. She did a trial. She purchased the program to target 7 boys in her classroom. These are high school boys. And I found out later that she's actually purchased that out of her own money.
My guest is Tanya Grambower. She's a teacher and tutor. She's created Literacy for Boys and a Literacy for Kids programs. This is 612 ABC Brisbane. So then I have to ask, are government priorities right to improve literacy at the moment in this state?
I just don't think they are, Steve. I've, like I mentioned before, I've actually written to every state minister for education. I'm really keen to help them in this area and see if we can, change these statistics that have been unchanged for the last 5 years.
See, governments are doing a lot of testing and a lot of screening. I mean, I've done endless stories on testing and screening, but
Steve,
still they're not getting it right.
Our government is providing $29.2 billion in recurrent funding for government, Catholic and independent schools.
And the result is?
The same as last year, the same as the year before that, and 4 years prior. Okay.
So teachers are exhausted. They need the help of parents. And what I'm taking away from your discussion with you is that parents need to actually grab hold of this now before their child.
Correct.
And so that even though you're tired, you've got to find 15 minutes if you're a bloke in a household to either read or read in front of or read with, somehow pick up an actual book, not a device.
Correct.
In front of your son, male, junior male in your household, what have you.
And I want everyone to know that you can actually improve literacy for boys and girls. So don't be worried if they're year 7 and you feel like that's too hard or it's too late. It really isn't. You can, with targeted practice, really reverse, and increase that literacy ability of those students.
Julie from Ashgrove says, nearly 30 years ago, our year 8 son grew up in a house full of avid female readers, was very reluctant to read a book. Thankfully, the English teacher at his school introduced the boys to a true account of the young Australian chap who was trapped in an ice cave in the Himalayas. From then on, our son was engaged and enthusiastic reader. It's amazing what choosing the right topic for a boy will do for them. Julie, thank you very much, which accounts to what you've been telling me.
It absolutely does. So our program features dirt bikes. It's got every sport under the sun. It has science, like I said, roller coasters, bull riding.
Boys like things to happen, don't they?
They do.
They want stuff to happen in a book.
They do. And they also want choice because they will choose, the topics that they're interested in, which as they build their confidence, then they will decide to choose topics that they're not as, they don't have as much prior knowledge to.
Tanya, I'm worried the state government is bamboozled in this area because on the weekend they announced that the state government is going to provide 140,000 free laptops for disadvantaged students, which sounds nice. But Jen, one of my listeners, says one of the reasons the richer nations in the world are experiencing a decline in literacy while poorer nations are not is the fact that richer nations now have all these electronic devices at an earlier age, whereas kids in poorer nations do not. Do you think that's true?
Yes.
So all these free laptops and pad devices at an early age are part of the problem, not the solution.
I think you're better off investing in amazing teacher aides and support teachers. That's a better investment. If we can lower the ratio of an adult, it doesn't matter whether that's, a volunteer or a teacher aide to students, and then you equip it with good quality literature and literacy, that's more of a solution than just issuing kids more technology. I have to say, when you really look into it, there is amazing books in that youth fiction. And I can give an example with my son when he was a very good reader and turned off reading when he was 14. And like everyone listening, you had to just keep presenting him with books. No, not interested. And then I got into one that was by a zombie series. Now, I'm not interested in zombies. I really am not.
Neither am I.
But I have to
others
say, these books were outstanding. The level of action, the characters, male and female, as protagonists, these kids were problem solving. There was high action. I was hooked. So he would read it and then I would read alongside. And I have to say that as a parent, that was a big learning curve for me to find a book that I actually wouldn't have necessarily picked up, but I just had to applaud the author because the high quality writing, and my son was off. If you have boys, if you can give them engaged in good quality books because you want it to translate to their writing, and that goes back to what I mentioned before, that 1 in 2 Year 9 boys can't express themselves well. Our latest NAP plan just showed that. So literacy is everything. It is your writing, your spelling, your grammar and your comprehension.
Tanya Grambower is a teacher and a tutor. She created Literacy for Boys and Literacy for Kids programs. I should mention she's also a member of the World Literacy Task Force. I'd like to talk to you again about this. Thanks so much for coming in.
Pleasure.